Apollo. Got kind of sick of it, maybe? I'm not sure. But perfect timing. We are now ready to get into game. Just reposition stuff and throw this away. This is a best of 5 semifinals. Starting off in the top left of Death Aura, we have the blue Terran, Mao's HeRoMaRinE. In the bottom right, as the red Zerg, it is Lambo, who is currently teamless. Arc on the SCV redeemed compliment me. Arc on the SCV, I think you're funny, dude. You're funny. I like when you're in chat. Good on you, dude. So, Lambo has kind of been back on the up and up. I mean, he went through, it felt like a pretty sharp decline. He was second best, perhaps, arguably, in Montreal 2018, when he narrowly did not beat Cyril. It was a 3-2 in Cyril's favor, I believe, and arguably Lambo was kind of winning one of those games. He ended up losing. And he was quite confident that he could do it. He was one of the few people who seemed like they could do it. Rainer had not yet made a name for himself. He was just like this upstart kid. He was doing pretty well, but like his first at BCS, or not his first, but like one of his firsts, because he had the whole age thing. Anyways, but he couldn't quite do it. And then Rainer ended up doing it. It was a great best of 7 finals. It was amazing. It was awesome. And then Rainer continued getting better and better and better. Lambo felt like Rainer maybe was like taking his power in 2019. Like kind of like Rainer was on the up and up, and Lambo was like, nah. I think winter started off pretty poorly for him. Or, it was like okay, but it wasn't exactly what he wanted, I guess is more than a half way to put it. So, it feels like Lambo's been struggling, but I feel like he's doing better. I feel like he's been doing better. I don't feel like EPT HeRoMaRinE. I just want to give some nice memories to Lambo. And some nice words to the little Zerg player here before he gets absolutely fucking wrecked by this guy in the top left. I mean, I feel like I always have to put a disclaimer. Someone's gonna come in here and be like, excuse me, why is ZombieGrub so negative about people who aren't HeRoMaRinE? I mean, it's just really biased, unprofessional casting. Like, come on. And it's like, well, there's bias and then there's like basically factual. Okay? And I feel like I'm just spitting facts right now. HeRoMaRinE has seemingly no true opponent on Europe, except for the guys that don't sign up in this tournament. Cyril and Rainer. He is that good. He's gone for a fast 3cc build here, which Lambo, I'm not sure, has been able to determine. So, kind of a tricky thing about Death Aura is that the pervert pillar is far enough away that you don't see the wall that is being built. So they can't necessarily see if the warp gate's on the way as fast as it should be, or if there's a wall for supply depots. And that is one of the smaller ways that you can determine if they're going for a 3rd CC. Or even an armory attack. So, 3rd CC has... I just need to... My cat was struggling. Anyways, 3rd CC has no supply depots at the front. Until much later. And a Hellbat attack has more supply depots before the 3rd CC comes down. There you go, that's what I was trying to say. Anyways, but yeah, the couldn't really see that. Couldn't really see that with this Overlord. You might be able to see how many Hellions they have, and 4 instead of 6 Hellions is also like, oh, okay, I think you're going for a 3rd CC, but at that point, it's pretty late scouting. So I don't know if Lambo actually knows. Okay, you got an Overlord in there. Isling, I think, also got in, too, when I was helping him follow. So, 3rd CC has been scouted. Not exactly the fastest scout. It's always so much better when there's an Overlord here, for instance, and they just coincidentally see it. So much better for the Zerg. It is not only 4 Hellions, it's the complete opposite. While 4 Hellions is the greediest way to go into a 3rd CC build, and then you don't have any tanks to help out, like, there are greedier builds than this. The 8 Hellions seems to be favored right now. Those extra 2 Hellions on top of the usual 6 seems to really give a lot of confidence to Terran players. They either dive more with them, or do more damage to Lings, which then obviously means diving could be more successful once the Lings are gone. It seems to be the trend. It seems to be the new thing to do. You always build 8 Hellions, even if you're going into bio, even if you got a 3rd CC. 8 Hellions way to go. And this was happening before the creep tumor change, so I mean, it's helpful. The tumors are now lights. So they're being denied, because there's also a Raven in here. So that's one of the more unique things we see from HeRoMaRiNE's build, is that he went for a Raven. Obviously, HeRoMaRiNE's been paying attention to his Twitch chat. Whenever they yell at him to make a Raven against creep tumors. You'll probably see soon, while it's not really that effective. Special kind of went through a phase of thinking of trying to make Raven openers work versus Zerg. And while the creep denial seemed really awesome, you were like, oh wow, so many creep tumors were killed. When the push finally came, the 2-tank push or 16 Marine drop or whatever, when that came, you looked at it and you're like, wait a minute. Was the creep pushed back? You're like, huh? Hold on. Was it? As Zerg players are still pretty good about planting creep back down, and this little task force doesn't usually kill queens. Although it can. So Lambo has had a lot of creep tumors killed. It is helpful that they're not armored anymore. For sure. Got an Overlord killed as well. He is still trying to do his best here. He's gotten up to mutas, about 9 of them? 8 of them? 8 of them. There you go. He is replanting that creep about as quick as he can, and now with the mutas out, he can push back the Hellions and the Raven. They're still alive, and that's kind of scary. That's a lot of Hellbats being included with the next push. Medivacs were going to skirt over to the right side, but they go over to the left to deal with the mutas first, and now he's going to do an attack off that left side. As it's kind of the fastest way to get to the Zerg base on this map. Maybe eventually break down the rocks in the middle. Muta's going to find the tanks, though, and that is a very nice find right there. HeRoMaRiNE with a big mistake. Was not supposed to let those tanks be caught off guard. Loses one tank, barely saves the other, but nice find for Lambo. Trying to get a wrap around here. Only a single tank to help out, but I think more importantly, it's all just off the creep. It was slightly before combat shields was done, but even that was going to kick in, so I guess it looked tempting. Not really something you could dedicate to. Marines were going to fan out, Hellbats could have been morphed, and Banelings were not going to be plentiful enough. So good pullback there from Lambo. Really how they took out that second tank. Helps that he's not really lost many mutas, if any. 7 more on the way. His creep spread definitely doesn't look as good as it usually would. But I don't know if it really affected the game that much. And this is actually an excellent cleanup here. Once again, getting that full surround. Nicely done by Lambo as HeRoMaRiNE is forced to evacuate. Now 10 mutas are on the way. That's going to be a total of 28 mutas with +1. That is pretty nasty. HeRoMaRiNE does have faster upgrades, as we would expect from a Terran most of the time in this matchup. But the muta count, oof. 20 plus with +1 is the, oh shit, amount. That's what that is. Before that, or not +1, you're like, it's annoying. They will clean up drops. They will significantly help against double drops. They will pick off medivacs and tanks with like 1 volley, maybe? And they do start destroying your base pretty quickly. Lambo does not have a lot of creep through, though. I made that point before, and that is still a bit of a problem. Not because he's getting pushed in any way that like significantly impacts the game, but because the drops probably should be seen faster. The drops / run-bys, or if you want to call it when a Terran does this, should be seen a little bit faster. So he does want to push this creep more to the outskirts and not just in the middle, but nicely done. Finds the medivacs. Lambo playing an excellent game right now. Even finding the 4th CC. Thor's going to respond to that, so it should not die. Should not die. Even using his map advantage to go across the map, Lambo sees an opportunity, but I think he might be a little too overzealous here. And this is again off of creep. And it's taking up a lot of his attention, a lot of his resources as well. He doesn't have an immunization on the way, and he's doing this, and I just don't think it's actually going to work. If you find the Terran player not paying attention with a big old ball of Marines here or here, Widowmine's not burrowed, all that good stuff, it could work. But it is kind of an attack based off a little bit of a surprise, or alternatively, based off of your opponent not macroing well. Creeps finally starts up again on the right and left sides. The middle is important, but especially when it comes to the later stages of this game, there's going to be more attacks and pushes to the left and right, as well as more drops to the left and right. So that's what you want to scout. Fifth base could be in trouble, but HeRoMaRinE now paying attention to the mutas in his own main base. That is 16 mutas with +2 on the way, but a Thor once again nicely picked up to respond, and maybe one more goes down. Not quite. Marine's find a bunch of queens. Oh, that's actually a really nice find. Excellent find. All of the creep tumor queens going down is really what you want as a Terran player. The planetary was going to be target fired by the Banelings, but Lambo decides, oh wait, I cannot do that. The army was already responding. He gets it to about 25% health, and then the repair kicks in, and that's actually a deadly loss of Banelings for Lambo. He's not really super high up in economy. 80 drones with 5 bases, I'd say, okay. But he's now back down to 4 bases with 78 drones, and he's also lost a significant amount of mutas. That is a problem as well. 10 mutas have gone down. 1,000 right there. And he has lost track of the army. Oh, for the right side, there was a bit of creep spread, but not anymore, and Lambo is set back down to 3 bases mining. Suddenly down 40 supply. I felt like he had a lot of things going for him, and then suddenly Lambo just didn't. Thor's barely saved. It'll go down, but so will Lambo. GG. HeRoMaRinE with the 1-0 start. It felt like things are going fine. Am I wrong? And we're just like, he got a tank there. He got a bunch of medevacs there. He was taking control of the map. His creep spread did end up being, I think, a bit more of a problem than I was giving it credit for. I think with even one more row of creep tumors, going from like this much creep spread to like this much creep spread, I think that actually does give you like 2 seconds of response that could have saved the 5th base, that could have saved, alerted him to be in position for the attack, right? I think that was a bit of a problem. But also, damn it, HeRoMaRinE. Stop it. I didn't really like Lambo's aggressive stance. I think it is supposed to be a good idea. Because you should be able to retreat if you're just posturing. But I think what went wrong was not the first time I was a little bit hesitant. I was like, oh, I don't know about this. I think the time he tried to go into a planetary, it kind of all happened at once, didn't it? The muta count got taken down because he took a risky move back into the main base. And then his 5th base got destroyed. And then his Banelings didn't actually kill the planetary. And even if they did kill the planetary, he wasn't in a position to make up for it fast enough. So it actually just wasn't a good idea in general, it looked like. And then, yeah, the push came. So it did all happen at once. And that's sucky. And if this guy just isn't very, very good. In the top right of Ice and Chrome, we have HeRoMaRinE. His opponent in the bottom left is Lambo. Still got a, I say, pretty good start in the early/mid game. HeRoMaRinE has been trying out mech on this map like many other Terrans. I'm curious to see his mech attempt again. Ligulac has 4 Europeans in top 10. That makes sense. Yeah, HeRoMaRinE I think is better. Clem is getting there though. Clem's TVZ is probably like, well, I think Clem's TVZ might be better than HeRoMaRinE. It's kind of hard to say. It really is like watching a young person versus an old person. The stereotypes that go with that, like. They might be kind of equal in skill, or HeRoMaRinE might actually end up being better, but Clem's style is a lot flashier. We see, I think, a lot of cooler things micro-wise. Things that are very visible. Like, HeRoMaRinE does all these things that are cool that you would understand if you paid attention to the game and you played the game, right? all the choices go for a third CCU over X, or going for one base over, like, the build choices, the SimCity, the sheer macro power. Like, those are cool things, but not very flashy, where Clem feels like he has that, but he also has a lot of flash. But considering, I think, their track records now against the Zergs, HeRoMaRinE and Clem versus Rainer and Serral, I think Clem has been doing better, right? So, I think Clem is better at TPC. Could be convinced otherwise. Anyways, I think HeRoMaRinE is just all around better at the other matchups. So, ZvT is Clem's weakness right now, but he's working on it. And TVP for Clem actually does feel very shaky. Like, it's cool, it's awesome, and I think he's good at it, but that's perhaps where the flash really comes in. It feels like I'm always watching Clem do some really cool shit when he's a little bit behind to bring it back, whereas I watch HeRoMaRinE literally grind a Protoss under his boot heel and saying, don't come back. Yeah. It's fun, though. I'm glad we have so many players we get to talk about so much. Obviously, we still usually talk about Serral being the best, but to have kind of the top four battling it out, it would just be really nice to have a Protoss in there. And I'm not saying that there's a reason we don't have a Protoss up in there. But I'm not saying. Fusion Core on the way. I think HeRoMaRinE is going to do his mech build once more. So that's 3, if not 4 battlecruisers, is what he showed last time. Some tanks. If he sees roaches especially, a decent number of tanks into Cyclone mech. That's what we saw. That's what I expect. That's what Lambo sees. I think that's what he's expecting. Is this fast enough to do a Roach Corruptor attack? Maybe. It's really nice to be told immediately this is happening. Because clearly he's not at all prepared for a Roach Corruptor attack. Like, that's pretty far away. But if you know this is happening kind of as soon as possible, about as soon as possible, then you don't take any damage from the battlecruiser, and you are set up to do a more fearsome attack later on. So that's why I'm wondering, is like, oh, now's the time to think. Now's the time to say, okay, do I try and kill him, or do I try and macro out of this? Lambo can do both. Needs to make sure not to take damage from the Hellions. Seems to be the real kicker of the battlecruiser build. Not many professionals take damage from the battlecruiser itself. In the early game anyways, but they do sometimes slip up and have the wrong unit in the wrong location and take damage from the Hellions. And there's the factories on the way. I don't think Lambo really needs to get a double scouts, but he would see the factories. He also sees quick double gas in the natural. I think they understand each other. Lambo maybe already thinking about a 4th base. It's up to 58 drones. Getting his spore crawlers. He's going to have an extra 4 queens. An extra 5 queens to work with, actually. There's 1 more on the way. Battlecruiser is teleported over to the 3rd base, which might be a little unexpected, but Lambo does have queens in position with transfuse, so this should not do any damage at all. Hellions fully retreated. Might now try and slip in on that 3rd. Or would be 4th, I should say, but there are a couple of units ready for that. A little bit ready for that. That is a lot of Hellions, though. We got 9 Hellions in a Reaper to bop away a unit blocking a wall or something like that, and that's exactly what HeRoMaRiNE's going to try and do, but Lambo is trying to be as prepared as possible. It is always scary, because of that many Hellions, the Lings suddenly just disappear sometimes. But that's also why he had Roaches, so nicely done on the defense from Lambo. HeRoMaRiNE's going to pick up a couple of creep timber kills. As something. He didn't win the prize, but he got a little gift basket there, and that's always nice. But the queens that were defending against the battlecruiser did not die, and once the battlecruiser is no longer really trying to kill them, they become creep timber queens. So that should be a very temporary thing right here. There you go, exactly. Spire is on the way. I don't see any evolution chambers, so maybe going for the big old push. I know there is a Roach Corruptor dedicated attack that includes the attack upgrades for both options, but without any evolution chambers whatsoever, I'm wondering if he's trying to get as maxed out as fast as possible and just go for literally brute force. Literally. But I'm holding on to that idea. I think evolution chambers can come down later. It's only one, so maybe Carapace is a priority. We do see fairly commonly double attack upgrades, both melee and missile attacks. Not so far. 10 Disruptors are on the way. These battle cruisers did not teleport in, so they could safely escape. They got Yamato done, so instantly take out 2 of those queens. Hellions are on top of the hatchery, but the hatchery's almost done, so they are not going to get that cancel. And with these Corruptors finally popping out, they're going to be able to support the queens. HeRoMaRinE will be forced to TP back home. Double chance uses to try and save the day, and okay, saves one of the queens. More Corruptors are here. Not going to get that next queen, so we're left with 6 queens in total. It's still 4... Wait, no, I can't do math. That's still 2 extra queens for Creep Tumor. Maybe he replaces one of them. But that is still no plus upgrade. Just a single evolution chamber doing absolutely nothing. Lambo getting set up for a big old max out. He's going to try and push into HeRoMaRiNE's 3rd base. So yeah, I thought he might do it, but I wasn't completely sure. HeRoMaRiNE has 7 more workers and is already headed towards a 4th base. But here's a tricky thing about, I think, what HeRoMaRiNE has done that I'll maybe get into in a second. Lambo setting up a lot of units. HeRoMaRiNE did not just immediately go for Cyclones. He actually has added on a ton of tanks and has missile turrets to try and cover his battle cruisers, and that's a pretty important difference. But here comes the battle. Hellions already caught by the Lings. There weren't that many Hellions to begin with. Missile turrets trying to help out against the Corruptors, but the ground army, I guess, is really where it's supposed to be at. The battle cruisers might fall, but if the ground army of Lambo still isn't around, then it might just be able to a bit of a wash. Teleport's going to save one last battle cruiser. 3rd base, did it actually go down? No, right now, there it is. HeRoMaRiNE is down 100 supply at the end of the day. I think it's actually going to have done it. Lambo had a handful of units left over, but is going to quickly reinforce with a bunch of Lings. HeRoMaRiNE was not quite set up. I think he needed more Sim City to help him out, and the battle cruisers just could not actually compare to the amount of Corruptors that Lambo had. If they overinvest into Corruptors and they take, you know, too much of the supply to kill those battle cruisers, the ground army might win. But that didn't happen there. HeRoMaRiNE lost out on both sides, both air and ground, and loses a game to Lambo. Yeah, it can be a tricky hold. Number of tanks can be great. Some people only go for Cyclones because they're thinking both helping ground and helping air. So you can do the Cyclone response or follow-up. That's the right word I'm looking for. You can do the Cyclone composition first and foremost, which will help cover your battle cruisers a little bit, or you can go for tanks and then a decent number of missile turrets, which is what he was going for, which I think works if he had more of a wall. Even 2 or 3 more missile turrets diagonally to stop the roaches from flooding on in, I think would be helpful for SimCity purposes, as well as helpful for dealing with the Corruptors. That was also a very powerful attack, I think, by the speed at which it hit. I don't know what timings the multitude of the multiple attacks happen. I guess all the Roach Corruptor attacks, we'll call them, right? I don't know the timings for every single one of them, but I think without any upgrades whatsoever, I expect that Lambo is hitting a little bit faster, a little bit harder than HeRoMaRiNE was anticipating. Certainly dangerous, though. If HeRoMaRiNE had held with a battlecruiser alive, or 4 tanks and 5 Hellions alive, and he still has those 4 command centers, I mean, Lambo's not exactly on a quality army with no upgrades. But HeRoMaRiNE did not hold. So it's tied up now. Headed to Eternal Empire. I think it's the one mech game we're going to see. In the top right, as the Blue Terran, he is HeRoMaRiNE. In the bottom left, as the Red Zerg, he is Lambo. So Lambo has a strong game last game, but I also feel like HeRoMaRiNE's weakest TVZ is his mech TVZ. I think you could argue that HeRoMaRiNE's weakest matchup right now is TTT, but it's kind of hard to base that off of stats because, you know, some of those TTTs might be against Raynor and Serral, which it feels like they deserve their own race. So I wouldn't trust the stats. It feels like HeRoMaRiNE where he clobbers a lot of the Protoss, and not because Terran is straight up like better than Protoss, something like that. Like he seems to be the only one really clobbering Protoss as hard as he does. And he generally wins against all the Terrans he faces as well. It doesn't feel like he does that as much in this matchup. It's a little bit more back and forth. It's a little bit more questionable. And then on top of that, I am not super in love with his mech play. In general, I guess I'm not really a mech fan, despite playing it myself. I play it because it's the lazier thing to do for me. Bio is too hard. But when I watch pros, I'm always like, okay, alright. Unless it's been a while. There was a point where no one played mech for a long time. And when it came back, it was like, yay, but I don't generally like it. So HeRoMaRiNE, I kind of feel like he almost gives Heist and Chrome away. I mean, that's kind of that's a powerful way of putting it. I just don't really anticipate HeRoMaRiNE to win on Ice and Chrome. Even his game in DreamHack against Denver, I think it was, on Ice and Chrome, he did end up winning, and the end victory it looked pretty convincing, but to me, I was like, during that game, I was like, well, compared to the last game they played, HeRoMaRiNE pushed in once and just clobbered the guy. The Ice and Chrome mech game was not as convincing, so I think HeRoMaRiNE, like many of his tournaments, many of his Open Cups, loses a map and then comes back with a vengeance. And Eternal Empire, I can't think of a better map for it. HeRoMaRiNE has done enough attacks on this 4th base where he's not really supposed to win, but yet still wins, for me to be scared of anyone who faces him on this map. Where usually, if this was like a GSL, Rogue versus Innovation or TY, I'd actually be very scared for the Terran. In a way that Zerg can feel like this map is just encompassed in creep. Really can't do anything against it. Now this is clever. This is annoying. 2 Reapers. It's not just the bunker, but there's 2 Reapers in here instead of just 1. Bunker is going to be salvaged in time to get those minerals back. But the Reaper's still alive. Didn't quite get that queen. That would be lovely to grab, but I don't think this is actually going to do much more damage. But hey, it already significantly delayed a 3rd, because you really do not want to take this 3rd up to the top. That queen is going to go down. She was the one with the most energy. Nicely done from HeRoMaRiNE. Bop on those lings to save most of his units as well. Yeah, you don't want to take this space. The Braider is really abusive. So Lambo just kind of had to deal with that. Oh, thanks, Apollo. Thanks for helping me with observing. Really nice. So 3rd hatch finally on the way. Now Lambo has taken the opportunity to basically do a 2-base Muta build. I mean, you can't argue it's not. That 3rd hatch isn't done yet. But I think this would have maybe been an okay timing for a 3rd hatch no drone build as well. Like, it looks funny because the 3rd hatch was delayed for so long. Point is, faster Mutas, later upgrades. Mutas pop out. Hopefully take care of whatever first little harassment squad there is. And then the next step is like, hey, do I have Baneling speed? Do I have creep spread? HeRoMaRiNE should know this build is on the way, honestly. Even without any scouting. He has not gotten any scouting? Yeah. Usually the Baneling nest is put here, but I think it's just too popular on this map not to anticipate it. Lambo has got an Overseer and an Overlord, so the 3rd CC will land. It was once again a quick 3rd CC build. HeRoMaRiNE quite favoring those. With no pit stop on a tank, no safety tank, didn't feel like it was necessary. And it certainly isn't. I mean, safety tank slash tank push. But against this fast and muted, I don't think having 2 tanks dragging along, coming out faster is going to help you against the mutas. So Lambo's got to get that creep spread really going. So he's even dropping the Overlord creep spread, which I really like. When you try this yourself, say you're like a Diamond Starcraft 2 player, you're not really that bad. When you try it yourself, it's kind of amazing how different the fast mutas feel. I mean, sometimes you face a Terran player who can't do anything against you, and they just turtle, and it's super, super easy. And then sometimes you face a Terran who actually kind of knows what to do. And because your creep spread isn't as good as the pros, because your timing with centrifugal hooks isn't as good as the pros, you're just like, no, but I had 15 mutas. Why I die? No. So I really like this. This is making it so much easier. This is really important. So often we see HeRoMaRiNE up against a similar build, similar opener, like nothing really has happened, it's kind of even. So many times we've seen him catch this base before the creep spread is really ready to go, which negatively impacts the banelings that are defending. In this game, where is HeRoMaRiNE's army? Just defending right now. Didn't try and be too fancy against the mutas. He could drop out somewhere, but he is finally going to get a push going. Already on his Widowmine production. Second factory is going to provide the drilling claws. Armory's already done, so they will be invisible. And do we have another Overseer? We do indeed. 2 of them, and that's great. Creep spread would be lovely for one more layer. There we go. Even just that little extra bit would have been so much nicer. HeRoMaRiNE with the Sim Forward Marines is going to catch them, though. That's actually very nice for HeRoMaRiNE. And the scan's going to reveal the might of the Zerg army. It's pretty powerful. A decent number of banelings. Lings, reserved, ready to make more banelings if necessary, which it is. HeRoMaRiNE is quite spread out, but he is on creep. Mutas at the number of 12 are actually helping take care of some of these Hellbats, maybe the Medivac, even grabbing the Widowmine before it can pop off. That Widowmine was a bit of a traitor mine. Thanks, buddy. HeRoMaRiNE is forced to evacuate. It wasn't really his most committed push. It wasn't the push he expected to win, but he doesn't... Oh, God. He can't let it actually overwhelm him. The Widowmines... Oh, no. Terribly placed Widowmines. He didn't think Lambo would continue fighting, and this could be a disaster for HeRoMaRiNE right now. The banelings roll into the natural, and Lambo might have just found the ticket to win game number 3. Oh, my God. I think he might do it. Oh, 4 SCVs go down. The banelings finally are taken care of thanks to some Widowmines. He was supposed to have 4 Widowmines helping out there. With 4 Widowmines in a proper concave, properly protected, this probably isn't that big of a deal. It's just really annoying. But because all 4 Widowmines got popped by banelings very easily, they all burrowed slowly and a group. It was so easy for Lambo to take care of. That was very, very scary, but whew, okay. Alright, moment over, moment over. Only 6 SCVs ended up going down. That's really not too bad. And HeRoMaRiNE still has his 2... Oh, only 2, actually. Well, at least it's +2 weapons. He still has the better upgrades. That's what I was going to say. And I love this bunker. It's become really popular against Protoss, and now it seems to be coming in versus Zerg as well. Drop to the left side. Just a single drop could do not much, but distracts. Actually, it could do quite a bit. There's no Spore Crawler to even bother the drop. It's amazing how obnoxious a Spore Crawler is with Terran drops, honestly. That is not a very powerful fighting force. HeRoMaRiNE definitely has more army, but it's all back at home, ready for a run-by, which is exactly what Lambo is doing. The bunker's also going to help out against us. No banelings, just the Lings and Mutas. That is a lot of Marines left over, and Lambo is going to have to retreat. Uh-oh. Suddenly things turn around. Lambo now down. Well, 20 supply is not that bad, but more importantly, he's lost his 5th base. Well, his 4th base. He's got another base on the way, but it's not quite done. Banelings do take care of the drop. That did a good job distracting Lambo. He had so much army going for an offensive maneuver, and he had army defending against the drop, that there really was not a lot of army defending that 4th base. And now this would-be 5th base is also going to be canceled, and these are some really powerful moves by HeRoMaRiNE. Again, it's not the most convincing army. It should be taken care of easily, but Lambo didn't have his entire army back at home. And those Widowmites even got some pretty good shots. Lots of army still in those Medivacs could drop out and take care of those Mutas specifically. 15 Mutas, probably going to be good enough. Maybe a little bit of magic boxing. There we go. Oop, the save. Oop, the save. Oop. One more shot, but it doesn't really matter. HeRoMaRiNE has gotten a 4th base up and running, using the forward expansion to not only continue attacking, but also kind of defending his expansion points. Really nicely done. The game's not over, but Lambo losing both bases is really bad. If he was always on a 4th base mining, I'd be like, alright, but losing both bases is pretty terrible. A little bit off of creep. Marines are going to stand their ground against those last few banelings, and how many banelings do we have? Whatever's making now. Only 4 more banelings, 6 banelings with 7 on the way. HeRoMaRiNE scans ahead and sees a not very good number of banelings, but still going to respect Lambo. Pulls back off of creep. The Mutas trying their best to really be the fighting force. 22 of them now down to 14, 12, 11, 10, and that is it. GG. Woo! Went from seemingly almost losing the game there to, well, of course, winning the game. Game 4 will be on Pillars of Gold. I'm gonna grab some water. Tokyo Drift, Starcraft 2 edition. Alright. Top right of Pillars of Gold, we got the blue Terran HeRoMaRinE. Bottom left, he is Lambo. He made the god bleed, but I don't think he's gonna get much more. Has had some pretty strong attacks to make us scared for HeRoMaRinE twice in the same Open Cup. Respect. The results are in for the other semifinal. Max Pax is able to 2-1 Skillis to face Clem in the other best of 5 semifinal. So 2 very young players facing off against each other, TVP. We do expect Clem to win that one. Max Pax is still mostly fancy. We're talking about comparing it to the earlier conversation about HeRoMaRinE versus Clem and how Clem's kind of just flashy and is stable, but not, you know, stability is not his middle name. Flash is his middle name. I mean, Max Pax is kind of in the same boat. He's got a lot of tricks. He's got a couple of tricks. He's got a couple of jerky build orders. He does thrive in chaos, which is a nice skill to have, but he's also not very stable. And I think he gets a lot of his victories in the Open Cup off of the PvP that is abundant in these tournaments, and not so much in the PvTs, which, I mean, they happen more often than they used to, I guess. I'm not sure Soul signed up for this one, but Soul's always been one of those Terrans that, you know, we talk about here, we talk about Clam, we talk about Euthermal maybe, but Soul's always been there. And now, like, Acheron is in here, Botfinic, a couple of the other up-and-coming Terrans. Anyways, yeah, Max Pax doesn't look as good versus Terran. And I think his kind of weirder builds don't work as well versus Terran either. That might be the matchup that kind of drags him down for a little while. But it is pretty fucking sick that Max Pax went from being a kid on ladder doing a derpy build to being consistently, now this is like, what, third, fourth time in a round of 4? It's pretty sick. So we got Reaper trying to get something done. Not going to find anything, but lives. Third hatch is going to go down with no problem. Reaper could have stopped that, but HeRoMaRinE one of the drone kills in the natural, I guess. Command Center goes down, as well as a second Command Center for HeRoMaRinE. He really likes his 3cc builds in pretty much all matchups. Really pushing it as a build in TVZ and TVP. In TVT, it's a little bit weirder, I would say. The way that TVT can open and the amount of branches in that opener for that matchup is a bit different. But it all does usually conclude with both players going into third CCs. Not a lot of 2-base all-ins, not a lot of sticking around on 2-base for much time in today's TVT. In older TvT, like 2 or 3 years ago, it was actually very common to have 3rd CC versus 2 base dedication, shall we call it. But not so much this time. Anyways, HeRoMaRinE really likes his 3 CC builds. So Hellions, maybe once again up to 8s, just a Viking, maybe a Liberator. Afterwards, he did a Raven opener for the first game of the day, and doesn't seem that he wants to do it again. Ling's doing something. Trying to catch the Hellions. Lambo with the big brain. HeRoMaRinE with a faster reflex, though. Nicely done. I was gonna say bigger hands, but then you guys were gonna take that somewhere. I didn't want you to. Liberator is on the way, as I expected. Now moving on to Barracks, and he's not, in any of these games, really shown any fear. Going for a 3rd CC is the greedier thing you can do, obviously, as compared to 1-1-1 in the Banshees. But there are some things you can add to a 3rd CC that makes it a little less scary. Not stopping at 4 Hellions is one of those things, which HeRoMaRinE does not do. He goes up to 8. And then swapping off to a Tech Lab immediately for your factory can also give you some protection against a bit later of the Ravager Ling getting Owens. But anywho, it's not that. Feeling very comfortable to set his 3rd on location. Ling's taking down some rocks. Slayer is on the way. Lambo does not go for one of the faster Spire builds this time around. He does actually go for a faster upgrade build. So, because Mutas are probably the more popular of the builds right now, I will say that TVZ usually favors the Terran and upgrades. But this build does, it's not like it's rare, it also happens. Let's say it's like 60-40 or 70-30, something like that. With the double upgraded builds, feels like a little bit less used. So there's the advantage there for Lambo. He's going to have 1-1 faster than HeRoMaRinE as well as 2-2. Probably not 3-3. Not as fast as Mutas. So I'm even now questioning, is he going to go into Mutas? Or could we see Hydralisks? Maybe some interesting lurker play? Maybe fast fixation pit or Hive? That's what I was thinking. Viking finally goes down. It was almost already dead. Hellions have not found any success so far as the creep spread continues to move forward. Lambo is setting up a lot of Lings to the top left. HeRoMaRinE has a double drop to the right as Lambo is setting up his run by. Banelings, even with a little bit of creep, should be a hold here. I think it's more of a question of, does HeRoMaRinE pay attention at home? I don't think he really has to pay attention. He actually has so many units good against Lings that Lambo is not really going to find success if he does run by. Maybe in a little bit, though. 4th base has to be canceled. 5th base has to be canceled. That's expected. I feel like this was supposed to be the true 5th base anyways. The bottom right 5th base was a, well, what if he doesn't scout it base? This it's covered by creep spread, closer to his 4th, blah, blah, blah. Armory's a little bit late, as well as the 2nd factory. HeRoMaRinE did include tanks. And started to just straight up produce tanks. I guess he saw the upgrades and the lack of mutas and went, oh, it's not a muta game. And wants to work with tanks a little bit more. Good target fire on the Banelings with a tank once, but not really twice. Marines do have equal upgrades at this point, even though they are falling behind with 2-2. So Lambo can't really take advantage there. If the upgrades are better for Ling, sometimes the surround is good enough, but not that time. Good eyes there from here. We're in really good reflex. Pulls up that supply depot, and these Lings will not find too much damage. Just an SCV. They don't really distract either. These units not getting caught by surprise, or even cleaning up some creep, and HeRoMaRinE still has the direct path of his 3rd to his opponent's 4th to try and push. Ling Baneling, maybe. Nope. Decided not to do it. HeRoMaRinE did add in a couple of tanks, but has actually gone back into Widowmine production. Oh no, the Lings got back in, but oh, not being controlled. Not being controlled, just run into the Hellions. one of the easier cleanups there, and that was not a small amount of lings. It could have been worse for both sides, I suppose. But HeRoMaRinE planning that very, very smoothly, and most importantly, gets to focus entirely on the bush. He scans to the top and sees Lambo setting up a big old surround, so he's got to be anticipating it. He's going to pick up. I think that would be the wise thing to do. Kind of splits, kind of moves away, kind of target fires the tank, but ultimately his plan was to pick up and get out of there, as he has realized, I mean, a while ago, I think, he realized there was not going to be any mutas on the way. So now I think HeRoMaRinE needs to determine if it's lurkers or not. Lurkers or fast ultras. In this day and age, I would say fast lurkers, but it's always good to check. Surround of the lings is looking pretty good. Some Hellbats are trying to help out, and HeRoMaRinE is now mostly off of creep, so this is not going to go as well as Lambo was hoping for. In fact, it just ends the game. GG. Didn't get to see those lurkers. He was on his way to a hive and a Hydralisk end, so that was his ultimate goal, but couldn't handle the constant pressure of HeRoMaRiNE's pushes. He joins the